أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد وعلى إطرة الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to our series of Dua Bringing It Home in honor of Imam Ali Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, whose Shahada we will be commemorating inshallah tomorrow. We are looking specifically at Dua Makarimul Akhlaq and just the first stance of it, which is sandwiched in between the salawat. And we are on the second line after the salawat, where today we are looking at the second line, which is Waj al Yaqini Afdal al Yaqeen, and make my certainty the most excellent certainty. What does this mean? So, certainty is, there are different types of certainty, and we have specifically been given the explanation of three different types of certainty. There are three levels, there are three different types. So, the first one is Ilm al Yaqeen, the second is Ayn al Yaqeen, and the third one is Haqq al Yaqeen. So we're going to look at all three of these in a little bit more depth. Ilm al-yaqeen is informational certainty, which is acquired through logical reasoning and argumentation. This is where I am using my logic and arguments in order to bring about a certainty within myself. So it's like if you take the example of a fire. So it's when I see the smoke, logic tells me that if there is smoke, there must be a fire. Or if I'm told by a reliable source that there is a fire, someone that I trust, someone that I know would not lie to me, and they tell me that there is a fire, then I would have certainty that there is a fire. So ilm al-yaqeen is, we attain ilm al-yaqeen through gaining knowledge, whether this knowledge is through logical reasoning, through some sort of reliable source, but it's attaining a certain level of certainty through knowledge. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. This is in Surah 102, verse 5. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Kalla law ta'lamuna ilm al-yaqeen. Nay, if you had known with a certain knowledge. This is ilm al-yaqeen. The second level, which is slightly higher, is Ain al-Yaqeen. This is where I have visual yaqeen, visual certainty, and this is acquired by actually seeing it for myself. So when you're looking at the example of the fire, not only am I seeing the smoke, but now I actually see the fire. So I see it through intuition, within an internal seeing through the eyes of the heart, or actually seeing it with my physical eyes. Anal yaqeen occurs when the barriers are removed and I'm actually able to see certain things through the eyes of my soul, through the eyes of my heart. And here in the same verse, Surah 102, verse number 7, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim, Thumma latarawunnaha aynal yaqeen. Then you shall certainly see it with the eye of certainty. So it's slightly higher than ilm al-yaqeen. The third level, which is the highest level, is haqq al-yaqeen, and this is true certainty, which is acquired through the acceptance of truth. And this is when I'm not only seeing the smoke, not only seeing the fire, but actually I'm experiencing the fire by being inside the fire. So haqq al-yaqeen is something that happens to all of us after death, when we actually experience the unseen, the reality of the unseen. But it can also happen within our lives, when we can actually experience things because we have allowed our hearts to be purified. We've removed all those blocks and barriers which block us from seeing the reality of things. So now we're able to not only do we have knowledge of it, so we have ilm al-yaqeen, but we can actually see it with the eyes of our soul, with the eyes of our heart. So we have ayn al-yaqeen, but now I can actually experience it as well. I'm actually within that spiritual realm where I can actually experience the truth, and so I have haqqul yaqeen. And here in Surah number 56, verse 95, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim, Inna hadha lahuwal haqqul yaqeen. Most surely This is a certain truth, the truthful yaqeen, the truthful of certainty. And Allah also tells us in Surah Hijr, which is Surah number 15, verse 99, that if we enslave ourselves to the Lord, then He will, until there comes to them that which is certain. So, in order to get this haqqul yaqeen, I need to enslave myself to Allah. I need to take out my ego and totally become His slave. Because for Him to give me this haqqul yaqeen, He needs to know that I will not abuse it. And the only way I will not abuse it is if I have no ego of my own. So, for me to move in through these different levels of certainty, through these different levels of yaqeen, I need to be breaking my ego. There's a beautiful hadith from Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam where he says, among the signs of the authenticity of certainty of a Muslim is that he would not seek the satisfaction of people at the expense of God's pleasure. So if we want to get this certainty, then we need to be seeking Allah's pleasure. We need to be doing everything only for His pleasure. I need not for people's pleasure, not for my own pleasure, but only for Allah's pleasure. How do I bring it home? I need to practically think about how can I move from ilmul yaqeen to ainul yaqeen. First of all, I need to have ilmul yaqeen, and then I can move towards ainul yaqeen. So I need to understand first and foremost, it is easy for me to see certain physical truths that are in front of my physical eye. So for me to see something which is physical is it's easy. But for me to actually have knowledge of the unseen, which are spiritual truths, it's much more difficult because I can't see them through my physical eyes. I need to see them through my spiritual eyes, through the eyes of the heart. So first and foremost, I need to have ilmul yaqeen, and the only way I can acquire ilmul yaqeen is through gaining knowledge. And we talked about that yesterday and how important it is for me to gain knowledge so that I then can have belief and therefore then put that belief into action, which is faith. And in that way, then I will get ilmul yaqeen. And if I have ilmul yaqeen, then I will then move towards ainul yaqeen by first and foremost cleansing myself of any blocks. So I need to make sure that I do tawbah. I need to ask for forgiveness for any sins that I have committed. I need to make sure that I right the wrong. I need to make sure that I don't move towards those sins. And in that way, then I can start moving from ilmul yaqeen to ainul yaqeen, where I am. The knowledge that I've acquired will help me to cleanse myself and therefore open up my spiritual heart, and therefore I'll be able to see certain things and build my connection with Allah so that I'm filling my heart with only the love of Him, and therefore again opening up the eyes of my heart to be able to see certain realities and have yaqeen of those realities. And in that way, then I will, inshallah, open up my heart for Him then to put His light into my heart so that I not only move from ilmul yaqeen to ainul yaqeen, but then towards haqqul yaqeen, inshallah. We pray to Allah to give us the tawfiq to acquire the knowledge to get ilmul yaqeen in order then to cleanse ourselves so that we can actually use the eyes of our hearts, the eyes of our souls to get ainul yaqeen, to cleanse ourselves so much through gaining ainul yaqeen that we build our relationship with Him so much that we fill our hearts with His light only, so that He then gives us haqqul yaqeen, inshallah. Please join me tomorrow in our final talk of this series, where we will finish off that first stance of Dua Makarimul Akhlaq, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.